Hey listeners, Mallory Wilsey here, Chief Producer of the Enrollify Network. I get the privilege of working alongside all of our creators at Enrollify, but I wanted to take just a quick moment to tell you about why I love the Talking Tactics podcast hosted by Diana Kibbolds. Every other Tuesday, Day drops a new episode where she focuses on a single tactic that moved the needle on any enrollment metric, from inquiries and booth visitors to apps completed and deposits, even registrations, you name it. The catch? The tactic had to be done with limited resources, either by a single person or a small but mighty team, or limited time, or maybe without a lot of money. The podcast format is fun and engaging, and it's just different from the more traditional 60-minute interview style shows. If you work in enrollment management or marketing, be sure to give Day's show a listen. You can subscribe to the show by visiting podcast.enrollify.org or just search Talking Tactics wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the Generation AI podcast, where we demystify artificial intelligence in the world of higher education. I am your host, JC Bonilla, joined by Summer Vibes Artist Kadui. How you doing, Artist Kadui? Summer Vibes?
I love it. Yes, it is summer vibes. It's getting warmer here in North Carolina, so it's nice. And it's a Friday. We're recording this on a Friday, so looking forward to the weekend, Mother's Day. Hopefully you have plans for the weekend. We certainly have a few plans as well, but looking forward to it.
Indeed. Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all of you moms or moms wannabe or parents who motherly their children. Super important aspect of our societal frameworks. And to my personal life, some of the unlocks I found is that you gotta play hard your kids on Mother's Day. You know, that's like the gift, right? The card or whatever they do. So not only have plans, my kids are the recipe of success, the ingredient that makes Mother's Day fun. Because, you know, after being married for a long time, like I just don't know what else to get my wife.
That's right. I'm exactly in the same boat.
So it's super hard, man. Like we should do a whole episode on, gifting partners.
Yeah.
But as of right now, I've been married, 17 years, and then we usually do a holiday gift, the birthday gift. Now one more, like literally I'm not that smart. So you basically play your kids hard and that's the win.
Yes, exactly. So it's kid-made cards.
Leverage the kids.
Absolutely. And then once they get a little older, they're like, Dad, let's go to the store and buy something. I'm like, wait a minute. No, they use their own money. It's funny.
Interesting. No, I'm not in that stage. The doodle, the cute little thing. That's the craft.
The craft. That's right. It's made with love. Well, JC, really excited for today's episode. Today we're going to be talking about hot off the presses 2024 Work Trend Index Annual Report from Microsoft and LinkedIn. For those of you, obviously everybody knows LinkedIn, which is the largest professional network in the world. And they do this every year, but essentially they look through the future. And essentially the future of work is here and it's powered by AI. If you're plugged into anything on the trends or what you've been listening on this podcast, you already know that AI is really revolutionizing how we work. And that's what the report is all about, right? It's really kind of bringing forward a lot of those on how job seekers and employees are thinking about AI and how employers are thinking about AI. So we're going to talk through that report today. There's going to be 3 different areas of the report that we're going to touch base on. The first one is going to be around employees and AI at work. The second one is going to be the career ceiling and how employees are looking at AI around job seeking. And then the third one is going to be around this AI power users, right? So how does that fit in and who are those power users? So, we can get started, but Microsoft's report, 75% of knowledge workers are already using AI today. This is a huge, huge number. It's only been a year and a half, and we have 75% of knowledge workers using AI today. And by the way, nearly half have just started in the past 6 months.
that recency aspect is fundamental, indicating that out of 10 people, 7 or almost 8 are AI ready, right? But 4 of them probably are starting to play around with AI with a recency of about 6 months. It's a really, really interesting artifact that showcases on one side the maturity, the adoption curve, like, where they may be, like people like you and I, we've been, playing with this for quite some time, but then backtracked us to, I guess, February of 2022, right? That's probably where many people are at, right? And what I say with 2022 February, that's basically 6 months after ChatGPT does that jump. So really, really interesting. If you are hearing this and when artists and I talk and you're like, what are they talking about? Like, it sounds so advanced. Don't be worried, because you are pretty much half of the population of AI users with recency and basically jump into those things. So it's a really, really important distinction, artists.
I mean, if you want to think about it really quickly, there is a breakdown in terms of ChatGPT is probably one of the largest, or Copilot or Bing or one of those tools, or Gemini. So if you're using one of those chatbots, but a Pew Research Center, they've done multiple kind of snapshots of reporting. And in July 23, they did a research around the percent of US adults who say they have used ChatGPT. And that percent was around 13% or so, but that's gone up tremendously. And when you look at that, the age population, ages 18 to 29, went from last year in July of 23 from 33% to 43%. It was the highest jump. And then you go back down, 40 to 49, it went from 21% to 27%. And then 65 plus, actually the usage went from 4% to 6%. So there is also an age bias here as well in terms of the usage and the workforce of how that's happening. And that was a Pew Research Center, so it has nothing to do with this report, but just to add some more context around that data.
In artists, I would not say a bias per se, right? But it's a behavior that is really, really important for everyone to, highlight. My parents are staying with me right now, and I see them, social media all the way. But the learning curve for an 80-year-old man, my dad with a phone to do Facebook, right? And now he's Facebook ready, takes some time. Some of the things that I'm seeing in this rapid adoption of AI, it's your technology readiness, right? So, I see what I can do here, and then you connect the dots of how does it improve my operational output? How do I benefit from this? Oh my gosh, I do these 5 things all the time. AI on a daily basis, our prior episode. This is basically where you start seeing also that generational bias or behavior being an unlock for adoption, right? Because if you go to the theory of a technology adoption, is perceived ease of use and perceived usefulness. So everyone sees how I'm going to benefit. It's like how easy it is for me to jump in this thing and start benefiting from it now.
Right, exactly. So one of the things that's really important, like that the report highlights, it says that there's this new saying, BYOAI. You know what it stands for?
Of course. Bring your own wine, beer, but in this case, it's not alcoholic or beverage. It's the technology. And I actually know bring your own device, but this is bring your own AI. Bring your own AI at work.
That's right. So we had bring your own device, and we saw that wave where organizations did not allow cell phones or people to bring in their own iPhones. But then they opened it up and said, you know what? We want you to use one phone. We want you to use one device. So now you can bring your own to work and connect it to your enterprise systems. In this case, we're seeing the same kind of, adoption pattern, or we're seeing the same thing where organizations have locked down ChatGPT or other sites, and they don't have a policy in place. They're saying, no, we're not giving you access to that. And, the employees are going in and actually using ChatGPT on their phones, using it on their own devices, or even having their own personal accounts that they're going in and using it for, which is really, really interesting, right? Because we've seen this kind of play out before. And it's the same thing in higher education, where everybody's trying to approach this from a policy perspective, trying to lock it down, build policies. But your students are already using it, your professors, your employees are already using it, and they get a lot of benefit. You just don't see it, right? They're using it outside of your environment, of your systems.
And when you break this data around cohorts, it's even more interesting that the reality is the unpacking of how the adoption is, whether it's a top down or bottom up. You have the policies, leadership is saying, all in AI, or basically it comes from your students, your audiences, your workers, your admin support. By generation, younger folk, Gen Zers, between 18 and 28%, it is estimated that percentage of use is 85%. 85% artists. We're talking about out of 10 students, 10 young employees, at least 8 of them, probably 9, are already bringing some type of AI manifestation with approval or without approval. Moving to 78%, 29 to 43 millennials. Gen Zers, that's you and and I think you're a millennial, my friend. So if you're in 78, I am a Gen Zer, 44 to 57, 76% to boomers. You know what the number is for boomers? 58 plus, 73%.
If you're 58 plus right now, you're considered a boomer. Yeah.
Right. So isn't that interesting that you would expect to the prior number that you just gave? Then it makes sense. Like the adoption has moved across all the different age gaps, but that 73% of boomers bring AI to work with permission, without permission.
Yeah,
that's gigantic.
Exactly. So we're seeing that the acceleration it's actually, and the need for folks using it, like you don't see a huge gap between the generations and bringing their own AI. Everybody in the workplace is seeing the benefit of it. It's just some of the younger, the Gen Zers and millennials are actually a little bit ahead in terms of bringing that to work. So when you think about your admissions counselors, when you think about your directors of admissions, like, they're already needing and they're using this AI. So you just need to give them better tools. You need to kind of make training. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through it. But here's some of the drivers, JC. The drivers is 68% of people say they struggle with the pace and volume of work. And 46% they feel burned out. Like, that's incredible.
So they look at, you're saying that with this work fatigue and dissatisfaction, AI, it's as a source of just my life is shit. Can I improve it just a little bit?
Exactly.
AI as the help. I mean, HR, people in training, organizations, are you listening to this? That maybe the reason why AI is coming to the work at this rate is because we have not solved a lot of employee satisfaction. And it's interesting. It's very interesting.
It's just, we're getting more and more bombarded by the volume of things that we have to do. It says email overload. One of the stats in here says 85% of emails are read in under 15 seconds. And the typical person has to read about 4 emails for every one they send. Incredible, right? Like how fast, like our expectations of reading and responding to these things is so incredible. Meetings and after hours work are holding steady as the post-pandemic highs.
Yeah. Artists, I give out my emails. I literally don't read emails anymore.
Same. I'm scanning. If it's from people who are interested, who I know I'm expecting something, I'm reading them for sure.
But what I want to talk about a modern workplace where if you're not relating to what I'm talking about, I would recommend you also have a different conversation, not only about AI, but about the means of modern organizing the workplace. I don't read emails because I am coordinating, by the way, and the emails are coming at this rate. The data is right. But it's the Slack, it's the text message, and the other forms of communication. We don't even have phones anymore, right, in my office. But Slack, in between text messages, I'm literally coordinating 90% of the work outside meetings. Emails, it's literally the last thing that I look at that, and they're coming at that rate.
Exactly. So again, in my organization, if there is email that's going around, I'm like, let's just take this to Slack. So I purposely copy and paste the message in Slack so we can kind of have a real-time conversation if it's important rather than going through email.
Can I give just two words that I think summarize what we're talking about in perfect semantic meaning? In the report calls all these things, the emails, the meetings, and even the AI aspect, the digital depth at workplace. Because what it's basically saying is that we come in with number of hours, and there's a digital depth that comes from communications, all type of digital requests, and we literally have less capacity to the tasks that are coming our way. So it is a debt and it's accumulating. So I love that word. I never saw it that way.
Interesting. So what you're saying is that there is like you have 7 hours to get stuff done, but there's the equivalent of 10 hours of stuff that needs to get done. So now the 3 extra hours are debt that doesn't go away. It still needs to get done, but it basically accumulates there for you day after day after day.
You're making $1,000 a month. You're spending $1,500 in credit cards. You know what that looks like? Financial, personal bankruptcy. So this is what we're talking about. But at the individual level, right? Not at the company level, right? I'm not talking about company filing bankruptcy. I'm talking at the individual filing personal, professional bankruptcy, whatever that means, digital bankruptcy.
And that is exactly why people are using AI to alleviate and make sure that they're getting through a lot more stuff a lot faster by summarizations, by handling all that stuff. All right, let's look at it from the employer's perspective, right? So if you look at it from now, one of the finding too is they're looking at employees and they're looking at leaders in organizations, and 66% of them, of the leaders, say they would not hire someone without AI skills.
That I find an issue with. I mean, I understand it's data, right? So you know what I would not do? I would not hire anyone with this or without that. Like there's I remember one of my PhD seminars in knowledge theory. It's called canonical job descriptions and non-canonical job descriptions, right? When you say I'm going to go hire, right? You have these specifications, and when you actually implement, totally different things take place. Not only the job description mutates and evolves, but also the requirements. And the reason why I say that, Artis, when you look at this chart that you and I are seeing, indicating that if you're in cybersecurity, that's even more real, right? Or in engineering, right? Creative design, like this, they're starting to think about, hey, creators, if you don't know how to do AI, it's complicated, right? You don't have a space here. The part that I find interesting or difficult to believe is, say that I am using an Element, and Element, it's AI enabled from beginning to end.
Correct.
So does that mean I am an AI ready professional? Because the technology is just basically so AI ready. It's kind of like saying,
well, not yet. So we're really ahead in the front, right? Yes.
But you know what I mean?
Yes.
What I'm talking about is it's that the technologies Element probably tomorrow or where you're going, it's AI enabled. So does that mean that the professional has AI skills, or the professional doesn't even know that she now has less digital debt because the technology has unlocked multiple things in terms of productivity? Do you know what the tension I'm trying to showcase is? Like, what is an AI skill versus AI unlocking time, and we don't even know about it? The black box of AI, if you will.
Hey, it's Mallory. Exciting news! I'm hosting the Engage Summit in Raleigh on June 25th and 26th, and I'd love to meet you there. Together, we'll dive into the mind of the modern student, what fires them up, how they interact, and what they expect in today's digital age, and how tools like AI help put them in the driver's seat of their education. We have some terrific speakers, including our closing keynote, New York Times best-selling author Jeff Selingo. Sessions will dig into practical ideas and innovative strategies to get your team more student-centered and ready to adopt AI. And many of your favorite Enrollify hosts are presenting too, like Jamie Hunt, Jenny Lee Fowler, and Brian Gross. Use the discount code Enrollify50 for an extra $50 off your registration. Learn more and register at engage.element451.com. We can't wait to see you there.
Yeah. No, I think what you're talking about right now is that forget about the tools, right? So we're thinking about AI as the generic tools that people have. So we're talking mostly around ChatGPT or this, very baseline models, Copilot, ChatGPT. So yes, tools embedded in there. Not a lot of companies have tools that are AI baked into their products, right? So remember that it's been only a couple of months now since Copilot has been available. Organizations are now adopting it. Google has their own version of Copilot. But at Element, we're literally at the bleeding edge. We're building these tools into Element with our Bolt AI assistants and Bolt Copilots. So at the end of the day, this has been very, very short. But what this survey says is that the rest of the organizations out there, and even institutions and colleges and all of us, the leaders, are saying you need AI, some AI literacy. You need to be able to use AI in order to reduce your digital debt. And if you haven't done it before, we need to bring people in who can adopt and who can use AI so they can do more. So I would rather hire someone who says, okay, here's how I use ChatGPT in order to do my emails, in order to do this, in order to do that. But then we can go in and say, okay, we use Claude, we use whatever else, we use the baked in tool to do that, which they can adopt. But they need to be able to use it. And because it has a different mindset, when you're thinking and we're using AI, it means that you know and you're taking workflows and you can produce more within the same constraints and you can be more efficient around that. And learning is also important. But I have to pay more for someone who is coming in with certain experience and they can write amazing copy for me or they can do some strategy, but that's a senior level person. But now someone says, hey, I use AI and guess what? Within a week, we can build a workflow that we can get the same results, but I'm using AI versus having to have that, 5-year experience building these things, on my own. So that's kind of where it's coming from. And by the way, JC, this is not coming out of nowhere, right? There's a huge shortage of talent gaps. Higher ed is seeing it every single day. But even here is that there's a 55% of leaders say that they're concerned about having enough talent to fill roles in the year ahead. And it's across functions, right? And then it jumps up to 60% or higher for those in very technical areas like cybersecurity, engineering, and even creative design, which is incredible.
Not only is incredible, and this is where then I'll start moving away from, all right, now the skill is there versus isn't the technology, right?
But it's not. The skill is not there. That's what we're trying to say is that if you have the skill today, you're basically rising to the top. You're very quickly going to the top of the pile in your resumes. You're breaking that ceiling. Like if you want to put something in your resume today that can get you very, very quickly up there is AI skills and AI literacy. And that's what we're talking about.
Okay, now I agree with that point because the shift is competitive differentiation in terms of talent management is AI capabilities as an individual, right? So let's just go back to today. If you put on your resume, I am Microsoft Office ready, like in skills, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, literally, that's a joke. I'm assuming you're like an executive, a leader and things of that sort. It's expected for you to be working on these tools for the past 20, years or so, right? But again, 10, 20 years ago, you should have listed it, right? Because it was a really scarce, evolving capability. And that's basically the attention that you just presented. As the competitive landscape says that John and Mary, they have the same GPA, they can do the same things, but Mary has AI skills, it's a competitive advantage. And as such, that gives you an edge in talent mapping.
Yeah, they use this term, which is it's interesting. So we think like when we think about AI skills, there's these two different components, right? There's the AI talent around technical AI talent, meaning that, hey, these folks are building models, they're doing prompt engineering, they're doing certain things to like data management, like all of that stuff. That's different, right? That's very different. What we're talking about is non-technical talent that have what they call AI aptitude, basically the skills to use generative AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Google Gemini, etc. Like that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the technical folks in here. We're talking about non-technical talent.
So let's unpack those aptitudes. I'm looking at the graph, the content writers, graphical designers, marketing managers, and then you start seeing different roles. And what you start seeing, right, is also the overlay between, is this creative, this software, or how it applies into the business place. So in other words, right, the content writer, you're actually starting to create this AI for creativity. And if I understand this correctly, 33% of the content writers, right, have now started to demonstrate that there is a skill that they have on the AI, right? So this is basically, it's presented to us as a heat map, indicating the way I understand this is that new content writers competing, about 33% of them saying that I'm already AI enabled. So if I understand this correctly, to your earlier point, it's a skill that needs to be demonstrated. It gives you an edge. And about a third of our content writing professionals are already basically listing it in some of their capabilities. They're ready for it. They have an aptitude. All the way to the bottom section, because there's like 10 of them. Let me give you the one that has the least change is the business developer manager. So an ops person, in this case is AI for business. It's about 13%. So out of 10 professionals looking for business development management, 1 or 2 out of 10, right, are actually saying already have it in their LinkedIn profiles or resumes and things of that sort. Very interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. So here's a kind of a high level thing, right? So we talk about this, and 77% of leaders say that early in career talent will get greater responsibilities due to AI. So now folks earlier in their careers can get greater responsibilities and can get more experience because AI is helping them bridge that gap of knowledge a lot faster, bridge the gap of experience a lot faster. So if you learn AI, if you adopt AI, it's not just helping you do your grunt work day to day, but it's also giving you an upward mobility into your job a lot faster because you're going to get more responsibility and you'll be more ingrained because of the capabilities that you're bringing to the table as well. And then again, this kind of goes in reverse because now 71% of leaders are more likely to hire a less experienced candidate with AI skills than a more experienced one without them. And that's what I was talking about before. So if you're earlier in your career and you're looking for that next phase, the best thing that you can do right now is essentially learn AI to kind of skip the line, so to speak, both in your current job where you are, but also, as part of the workforce.
One of the interesting things that, as I'm looking at this data in this report, starts to basically give me some forward-looking things. Everybody, what we're telling you is this has arrived and is starting to translate into the competitive ecosystem of talent, right? So what this report is suggesting or is indicating is that now these professions that I'm going to list, this is where they see the most changes to fulfill those needs that artists just mentioned. Almost half of the executives are going to go for, this type of talent. When you have John and Mary and they kind of even less experienced, AI is the edge. But this is how it translates to different professions. Product managers, project managers, and program managers, and also general managers at the top of the aptitude kind of skill readiness when looking at LinkedIn learning. So that means that these professionals are literally tooling up, skilling up as we speak. And tomorrow, there's going to be more product managers, more program and general managers who are saying, I'm AI ready. So your stats that you just quoted, in a way, are starting to be fulfilled. So if you're not keeping up with the Jonases, in this case happens to be AI, you just lost. You lost.
Well, you can interpret that another way, though. You can say that, AI is giving these folks a leg up because they already have the ability to manage projects. They have the ability to kind of look at things. Basically, the management part, they have that down, right? And then now they don't have the technical capabilities, but they work through other people. So they have to basically bring experts on board. What AI allows you to do is act as an expert for you. So you now no longer have to manage experts, but you can actually get a lot more done a lot faster because you don't have to do that. Hence, the capability of project management, of product managers, folks who are, less technical, but they're able to get, problems and understand the domain knowledge. They are benefiting the most because now they're becoming very, very good. Since they don't need experts anymore, they can do a lot more of those special techniques. All right, one more stat, JC, and we can go to the last one, to kind of the part 3. But before we go to part 3, I do have one more stat in here, which is only 39% of people globally who use AI at work have gotten AI training from their company. So even though leaders are saying that we need training, we need people with skills in AI, training is absolutely not happening. And that is something that we need to kind of realize. And as leaders, as people who are kind of training our folks, that's a big part of it, right? That's what's going to set our organizations apart. That's going to be a way to attract talent. That's going to be a way to kind of keep talent around if the AI training is there and that's happening.
But that's from the point of view of kind of learning and development, right? Top bottom approach, right? So the organization has not provided the training, right? Because if there's one place where I've seen training boom is on AI readiness, but it will be that me, JC, I'm going to look for it and it's on my own terms and it's not applied to the workplace. I am the analyst, so I'm not training on AI for analysts at, Vayner X type of thing. I think that's the nuance on that status.
But why aren't you doing that? Like, that's the thing. It's like an analyst can probably do the work of 2 or 3 analysts if the training is there so they can better utilize AI.
Why are we not doing that? I think I'll give you 2 answers, right? Number one, many organizations, we know it's a priority. We want to do it, but we're not resourcing it because we find loopholes on legal. We found resistance on legal that basically tells us we're not ready yet. So it requires the champion, which is basically going to stop what you're doing and move the ball. There are operational inefficiencies that are cross-functional, and then the AI angle is not one-dimensional, it's multi-dimensional, it's cross-functional. So basically, I'm going to summarize it this way. It requires AI championship that is a really top-bottom approach. Else is a volunteering, like self-organizing community, which you can do in the workplace. So that's what is missing in many places. I am not the organizational AI champion, but I'm definitely an AI expert. So the difference is that 9 to 5, I'm going to be solving problems. And did I get to my AI agenda? Probably not, because it was not my number one priority. So make it your number one priority at the workplace. And that basically means that it gets resource. And then these things will start emerging. And the second angle, it's that there's a shortcut to it. Bring your own AI to work. We know that we're benefiting from it because, I can pay some, ChatGPT things. So it's starting to happen in a very unstructured way. And then you know what happens? You want the use cases, the capability to emerge very organically, and then you're going to come and take place. So in other words, it is happening. We're monitoring, but we're going to let it mature somewhat organically, and then you can come and corral it and make it a larger cross-functional, organizational, global capability. That's where I'm at in terms of my strategic mindset. Give me a few more months and I'm going to make a claim on it. But then in the meantime, go for it, analyst, and do those type of things.
I mean, I have my own perspective on it. I think that's a little bit of a cop-out to say that, hey, we're going to organically let it happen and people bringing their own devices and stuff like that. But it just comes down to leaders they don't understand AI. And the older they are in their organizations, the less they understand and the less they use it. So less of a priority becomes. So it's like this thing that's happening and we need to figure it out, but there's just no knowledge there. So it's taking a long time. There's a huge drain or a gap there. So that's my perspective on it. I don't think it's because we don't want it, but it's just no literacy. There's no adoption at the top. And that's why these things aren't getting prioritized.
There's nothing wrong with your approach, or there's nothing right with your approach. It's what I'm going to say. It's where you fit as the leader in the technology adoption curves. You are an innovator and you jumped into this opportunity, and as a leader, you bring it. But if you were more of like my type of leader, where I'm not the innovator at the workplace, I am more in the majority or maybe early majority. So you need these things to have some type of evolution to jump in. So, and what is the difference? You're the 1%, I'm the 12 percentile, right? And then it's going to start moving. What I would recommend every leader to do is do not make it into the more of the 50th percentile, meaning that half of us have migrated and we have our strong points of view top bottom, because by then it's not that it's too late. It's just that let's go back to this study. There's pain in the workplace today, and we have an opportunity to unlock some operational benefits that brings more smiles and happiness. And AI is a solution, not the solution, a solution. So let's bring more smiles to the workplace. AI is here to help. And with that, thank you very much. This program is sponsored by AI Happiness.
AI Happiness, that's right. There's one of the quotes in here, which I thought was really interesting. And it says, over the past decade, companies have been renegotiating the psychological contract, the why of work with their employees, which was influenced by the new generations coming into the workforce, labor trends, the pandemic. So basically, over the last few years, we've been talking about few decades, like the why of work, like why do you need to do, like basically trying to get people into those And now companies must negotiate the operational contract, the how of work with their employees as AI puts more power into the hands of workers in terms of the way they get their jobs done. So I thought that was really interesting, like the why of work and the psychological contract versus the operational contract of work. We can not comment on that. I don't know how you feel about it, but the way I see it is that every single aspect of how we do work is going to get disrupted. And the operational contract is that what you do today is going to change drastically what you do tomorrow. So how we go about those operations, it's not about you as the individual necessarily, like feeling your value and feeling your ideas and how you can contribute. But we're now switching that to say how you as an individual are using this amazing capability to amplify the things that you're doing, the operational work or the output that we need from you. We haven't done that in a really long time since the computer, right? Since the personal computer came into the workplace, we hadn't done this before. Of course, the internet, that's another one, but in kind of the day-to-day work that we do, that's very different.
What you just mentioned is a really important point to elaborate. So I'm going to go in a rant. Hopefully this will not be edited. But think about the knowledge worker, right? You're not on an assembly line where you just basically you put your hand, you take something out, and you put it you're actually completing work with mental power. 9 to 5 construct. You know what happens after 5? You continue working. You know how many times you, artists, and many of our listeners, it's midnight and you wake up with an idea, you're at dinner and all of a sudden you're replaying the meeting where you said the right thing or you said the wrong thing. That's basically the psychological contract that work doesn't stop because it's in our brains. And that's one of the important premises of the knowledge worker. So what does that mean? And now this is where the rant starts. You know, the sense of fulfillment sometimes is, how is it possible that I'm fulfilled when I send 7 emails? How does that work?
That's our lizard brain. That's our dopamine.
How does it work that when I have a checklist that has 11 things, I crossed 3 and I added 5, then I have no sense of fulfillment because the psychological contract is about working is in my head, but there's an actual, operational contract of doing, and many times digital debt. Many times just busyness allows basically a disparity of the check and balances of one is producing, the one is it's checking check boxes. So bringing it back to this study, what I'm really trying to land here is the point that we need a change in this balance workload because the mental health, the psychological aspect of work is real. And the operational contract, it's been failing against that for the past 10 years. And the evidence, the data is there. We're overwhelmed and it's not improving. So AI continues to be a solution. I give you the floor. My rant is done.
That is great. I love it. So, well, I don't think we can end it in a better note. Maybe some really quick takeaways here. I know that we have another section of the report, but that really talks about a little bit more personnel. So if we think about what we talked about is that businesses today, there's a lot of opportunity out there ahead for leaders to basically bring AI to the workplace, to enable it for learning and so on and so forth. But there's efficiency gains that are available across every single function. And you need to identify those problems and then apply AI to it. So first, you need to identify them and apply AI. The other one is that you need to take a top-down and a bottoms-up approach, right? You can't have one or the other. So we said before,
we actually spoke about it, right? The bottom-up is that organic, and the top-down was you saying the company is an AI company.
Exactly. So it needs to come from the top, right? It can't just be an initiative that people are bringing their own stuff to work. And then the third one is really prioritizing training, right? So AI power users aren't doing it on their own, right? We didn't talk much about this AI power users during our conversations, but AI power users are somebody who is very extremely familiar with AI, and it extends to the work where they're using it at least several times a week, and it saves them 30 minutes per day by using AI, right? So that's what we're calling AI power users. But they aren't doing it on their own, and they need to receive ongoing training both on universal tasks and uses and then more tailored to their roles and functions as well. So those three things are, I'll take those away as part of this report, and they're very actionable in terms of how we can think about it internally or what we do every single day. So we'll leave it at that. We can go on and talk about this all day long. This is something that we're very, very passionate about, how AI is affecting our work, how it's affecting education, productivity, the experience, the customer experience, and how we're doing all these, our technical debt, reducing our work debt.
Digital debt. Our digital debt. So that's a good one. But until next time, everybody, hit like, star our podcast, add a review. We'd really appreciate your feedback. Until next time. Thank you, everybody.
Generation AI is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you're going to like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing weekly, and we've got a wide range of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed leaders and professionals like you find their next big idea. They feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts, like Jamie Hunt, Seth Odell, Jenny Lee Fowler, Brian Gross, and many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform that's helping institutions all over the country create meaningful, personalized, and engaging connections with their prospects and students. Learn more at element451.com.